We're parents, teachers, and educators, and like you, we're passionate about restoring our culture for Christ. This is Veritas Vox, the voice of classical Christian education.
Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Veritas Vox, the voice of classical Christian education. Recently, we had a guest, Sarah Hernholm. I forgot your married name, and I did Woody.
Woody, yeah.
Yeah, Sarah Hern. I'll call you Sarah Hernholm Woody. I don't know how you.
Yeah, there we go.
That's what we'll do for now. Anyway, she wrote an article that was published by Forbes on classical Christian education, and when I talked to you about it, Sarah, I learned that you had a business that defied what I thought was possible. And unlike me, maybe 20 years ago, I love it when people graciously, like you did, prove that I'm wrong. So hopefully those of you that are watching and listening are teased enough to hang around to hear what that is. But Sarah, first, introduce yourself again, this time more briefly, because others may have heard you before, but maybe a little bit of your background and what brings you here today for this talk.
Well, I relate to you because there was a time when I did not like to be proven wrong. And now I'm like, sure, tell me, I can do that. I relate to that. It's good. Growth is possible. So that's good. So like you said, we had a fun chat earlier. I hope everyone enjoys that episode on the article that I wrote in Forbes about classical Christian education. Very new to it. Got my own exposure to it by traveling out and seeing a school, reading books, and I just had to write about it. So that's how we met. And then my career trajectory is really, I used to be in my 20s, I was in TV and film. Then I moved on to education, being a teacher, public school teacher, left, started an organization called WIT, Whatever It Takes, which we'll chat a little bit about. And I've been doing that for over 15 years.
But let me make sure that that didn't get lost on people. WIT, W-I-T, stands for Whatever It Takes. And the website is doingwit.org.
Yes, doingwit.org. Our motto is do whatever it takes. That motto came from my classroom. I had that painted on some paper banner in my classroom, every classroom I taught in, and that was our classroom motto. You may run into students that I taught, and they will still say that. One of my pictures on my computer desktop is the picture of that class in the banner, so it's near and dear to me. But that is something I created after leaving the traditional classroom. And since, running WIT, I've also write for Forbes on education and entrepreneurship. And I speak around the country on the topic. And I've given a few TEDx talks, and I keep myself busy.
Yeah. Well, today what we want to talk about is young people. The age range that you deal with is 12 to 17 primarily? 12 to 17, and helping them to develop entrepreneurial thinking, business ideas, and developing gifts that they have and interests that they have into entrepreneurial opportunities. Give us an overview of what that looks like, and then I'll ask you some more. We'll drill down with some other questions, because as I said to you when we talked offline, I was, in the 90s, colleges started adopting entrepreneurship programs and degrees and that sort of thing. And I found it a little bit silly because I didn't really believe that entrepreneurship could be taught, because it really needed to be caught. And that's where you were able to convince me that it's not quite that simple or quite that limited. And so that's what I hope we can really develop here. So tell us a little bit about the overview of what it is exactly that you do with it.
So we're really big on helping young people activate that entrepreneurial mindset. And then we do that through entrepreneurship, through launching a business, a side hustle, maybe a give back program. Eventually it could turn into a nonprofit. We're basically asking children to tap into something that they are good at and figure out how they could turn that into a business, and how they could turn that into a business that actually gives back. And we know that a lot of young people are asked, what's your passion? What do you want to be when you grow up? And that's a really intense question to ask somebody who's been on the planet for, 12 years. There's many adults that don't even know what their passions are, or they evolve and they change. So we try to take that. It's very heavy. It's a big ask of a young person, but instead ask them, what do you enjoy doing when you have your own free time?
Yeah.
And then we explore what they're already doing, and we explore how that can be turned into a business. And then we take them through the steps of launching that as a business and all the things that come with that. So the thing that we do that I just love is we just build in that failure is going to happen and that mistakes are going to happen. And what better place to do that than at WIT, whatever it takes, where we totally care about your child. And we know that building that resilience and that grit happens when they fall. It doesn't happen when everything is smooth sailing.
Right.
And there's really no place except, that I've really seen in like the traditional, like public school setting and even private school settings where failure is allowed. There's a lot of achieve, grades. And at WIT, that's not what we're about. We need our young people to face rejection. We need our young people to mess up, to fail, to have an idea that doesn't stick. Well, what do? Do you give up? Do you pivot? That's what we do with the young people in our program.
Yeah. How does the program exist? What are the options? Our marketplace, the people that are listening, are generally speaking people who have an affinity for classical Christian education, whether they are parents or teachers or administrators, probably some students as well, in the homeschool world as well as the classical school world. So those are people that I would think would be very attracted to entrepreneurship. Tell us how it plays out in your various programs.
Well, we want to make it accessible to everyone and that's interested in doing WIT. We run the program virtually. There is an application process and we offer a variety of classes. They range from the person that's just getting started on their entrepreneurship journey and the teen that might already have a business and is just having a hard time getting eyes on it. And we have a PR class that they can take that is taught by somebody who runs a PR firm. All of our courses,
that's incredible.
All of our courses and our classes are taught by people who are entrepreneurs, which is very different than in school entrepreneurship programs. And in that PR class, for example, every week, a reporter from a different media outlet comes in and teens get to pitch their business. So we really are giving you real world exposure because teens always, they want us to treat them like they can handle the real world. So we go, okay, let's handle the real world. Here's a reporter. Are you ready? And then they're like, oh, wait, I gotta go prepare because we're bringing in a reporter from the Financial Times or, Forbes next week. So show up ready to go. So we do make sure that we offer our programs virtually. Like I said, we do have in-person events, but those are hosted by either a school or an organization, and they're called hackathons. So we do that, and then
Explain the name. What makes an in-person version of what you do virtually a hackathon?
Okay, because you are hacking your city or your school's biggest problems. Okay. And our approach there is we tell young people, well, adults have created these problems and they clearly can't solve them. So we need you. And we need you to do it because, the adults have totally messed up. And they're like, yeah, they have. Okay, well, let's fix it. And we do it either in a 1 to 2 day event. It's very fast paced. It's so much fun. I know you're just hearing me say that, but I'm telling you, the kids say that. What they usually say after a hackathon is, I wish school felt like this. Yeah. Ultimately, at the end of the day of the hackathon, they pitch their solution to the problem to a panel of judges. And then there's a winner, because in life there are first place winners and second place and third place. Not everybody wins. This
sounds a little like Shark Tank.
It is. And there's pizza and there's candy and it's fun. And kids are public speaking because they have to. And I think we sometimes as adults just underestimate the power of our children and what they're capable of.
There is no doubt we do.
Right? Just given, what we do in 24 to 48 hours, people are like, how did that happen? Because they have it in them. It's up to us, the adults, to use the right language, create the right systems to bring it out in them.
Yeah. That is incredible. Who in that age range is capable of being an entrepreneur?
Well, I mean, we start them at 12, and I would even say, well, my nephew, I mean, he was selling Amazon Prime drinks on the corner in his neighborhood when he was 9 years old, 10 years old, and charging more than they were cost at the store and was making money off of that. And so we'd have to realize that young people, we're almost conditioned, like when we were little, like when your parents would say, if you want that, you have to pay for it. You like found a way to do it. You did yard work, you babysat, you held
I'm
a
old
garage
enough to
sale.
have collected glass bottles to turn in for credit.
Right? I mean, it's already in them. And so it's not hard to just take a couple different approaches with them and a couple different like rounds of questioning to get them to see how that could actually become a business. Could you, for the summer, be the person that takes care of the yards in the neighborhood? That's a business. How would you promote that? How could you get the word out? What would you charge? How many people do you want to, how many hours do you want to work a week? This is how you start talking to them. So I think that our young people are capable starting at 8, 9 years old, except for our program is more about a 12-year-old, a 17-year-old. And sometimes our teens are launching, they're building apps and they're doing that type of thing too. So not everything is, an in-person program like a lawn job or a babysitting job.
Yeah. How long have you been around doing this?
15 years.
Wow. Okay. You'll have the data set to answer this easily. What are the attributes that you would say have made students most successful in your incubator environment? And then follow up to that, what are the attributes that students take that can be full-fledged entrepreneurs that are really building businesses that support them?
The biggest shift that we see in our young people is that they might come in with more of, let's call it a victim mindset, like everything's happening to them. And there's a switch that happens at WIT, which we call they switch into a victor mindset where everything is happening for them, and that they become what we say are solution focused, solution oriented versus problem focused.
Okay.
And that is something that they can take anywhere that they go. A lot of times we talk to parents about, the impact of WIT, or they use the language back to us of what they've seen in their child as a part of, after being in WIT. And there's something about what we do that really turns a young person into growing up to be a contributing member of society. There is something in them that shifts in their mindset. We do have these principles called the 11 tips for doing WIT. And a lot of it is really about getting somebody to stop looking at what is wrong and blaming somebody else for it. And instead going, this isn't working. How do I fix it? What can I do? Yeah. We want our young people to be self-confident, and we want them to be giving back. So it's not about just like get it and win it just for you, but you can be successful, but on your journey of being successful, look around and find ways not to give a hand out, but to give a hand up. So I think there's a humility that happens in our young people too, because they come in thinking that they know everything, which is fine. I felt that way as a teen as well, and even as an adult at times. So when they realize that it's okay to be wrong and that it's good to ask questions. And I think now that I'm thinking about this, it almost feels like they come into us and they take a load off. Like they're carrying this identity out in the world. That's just like this push towards getting good grades and getting into the quote unquote right school. And then they come to us and there's a shift that happens where they start really getting to know who they are and tapping into their gifts and talents. And that it really is our responsibility when we're on this planet and in this experience to share those gifts and those talents. So I think that we do a good job cultivating that. I don't think I answered your question, but you're getting me thinking. No.
Well, yeah. Well, let me bring you back to the question. What are the
Thank you.
attributes of the participants that you find make them most successful?
Well, humility.
Okay. So they're teachable.
Mm-hmm. Curious.
Yeah. Is there an
Resourceful.
element of character that would be risk taking?
Yeah, I mean, you do have to teach that. You do have to teach getting comfortable with taking a risk. Now, for a young person in WIT, sometimes young people have a hard time putting out into the world like what they're doing that's really good and really impressive because they're afraid of what other people are going to think and if they're going to judge. As we hear this from our teens, like let's say one of our teens gets on TV talking about their business that they launched, and we say, okay, you want to go share that with people and share that on your Instagram and put that out into the world. And they're like, well, what if people judge me? What if people think, who they make fun of me for doing this? And that in a way feels risky to them.
Yeah.
And so we help them work through that. Mostly our tip for that, and for anybody who struggles with that, is if your business helps other people, people need to know about it, because how can you help more people if people don't know about what you're doing? So instead of making it about her, like let's say her name is like Molly, instead of being about, no, Molly, you want to get the word out so everyone knows that Molly is amazing. Instead, it's, no, you want to get the word out because the work that you're doing is helping people and it's making a difference. And if people learn about it, then more people can be served by the work that you're doing. And that reframe is this is kind of like what we like to promote when it comes to entrepreneurship, which is different than what you see in the entrepreneurship world.
Yeah. What can you give any examples? If in 15 years, do you have any 20-something, maybe even 30-something success stories?
Well, I'll give you a couple and what success looks like to me. I still get people that send me emails that have children and they talk about using the WIT tips in their home, and they thank me, or maybe it comes because they've had another experience with their child in an education setting that isn't great. And they go, gosh, I wish they had you because you were so great to me. You believed in me when nobody else did. That always is wonderful.
Yeah, that's a great thing to hear, isn't it?
It is. And we also have people that have graduated WIT, gone on to do other work, and have come back and are working for WIT because they said, I want to work for an organization that has a mission that I really believe in because it changed my life. And then we also have the people that are out there running completely different businesses. We've got one guy who runs a very large agency and media agency. And he comes back and guest speak, and he says, like, I know that you think that, Miss H is kind of annoying sometimes, or like WIT asks too much, but trust me, like, this is the stuff that really matters. Forget your algebra class. I'm like, okay, whoa. Like,
yeah, that may be a little bit presumptuous.
So I think the fact that they still feel close to us, or they're incorporating the work that the messaging that in the language that they learned at WIT in their life, we just are really proud of the children that have gone through our program and what they do in the world. They are people of strong character. They are focused on others while also making sure they take care of themselves and their families. And they're solution oriented. They're not victim mindset people. So that's what I think, those are the success stories. That's the success.
I've always believed, since getting involved in classical Christian education, that is the type of education that best positions someone to be entrepreneurial and successful. Do you see that? I know that your exposure to classical ed is relatively recent, but you've done some deep research. How would you say a classically educated kid is prepared in maybe the ideal way from their formal education to be entrepreneurial?
Well, I'll tell you, as the audience knows, my exposure is limited, but legit. Okay. I've gone to the campuses, I've researched, I wrote a Forbes article about it. But something that stood out to me when I was on campus is that the creativity is already there. The fostering of creativity
just to tell the audience, this is at a particular ACCS member classical Christian school called the
Yes.
Ambrose School in Boise, Idaho.
Yes. And I visited that campus at my request. I went. They did not know that I was a reporter when I went. So there wasn't anybody like putting on a show for me. I went in as an everyday person, just doing a tour. And the creativity is there. The cultivation of creativity is there. The ability and that you need that as an entrepreneur. Okay. I mean, and I saw that through like the projects that the kids were doing and the way they're being spoken to, the open-ended questions. I think that lays a foundation for somebody who's ready for entrepreneurship, because they've learned that there's different ways to look at things. And I think that's what this type of education cultivates, that they're to explore the different viewpoints, and then ultimately deciding on the approach that you want to take or what is right. I feel like something else that I noticed was patience. And that might sound kind of a weird thing to have noticed, but I did. And I think that entrepreneurs, it's tough, but things don't happen overnight. And that builds resilience when you just have to keep trying and finding another way. I just think that through the way that I saw young people doing projects or the learning that I saw, it was an approach that if they let's say they were to come to WIT, would be familiar to them. It wouldn't be as much of a shock as for some of the kids that come to WIT and they're like, whoa, I never had an adult talk to me like that or expect that from me.
I don't know how you deal with this in WIT. My experience as a businessman and as an entrepreneur has me looking back on my exposure to the law, to accounting, and to finance as basic ingredients in any entrepreneurial business activity. What do you think about that? And how, if you think those things are important, how do you expose the, do you call them clients? What do you call them? I don't want to call them kids.
Well, I know I still call them kids. They know they take it from me because they know I
the
them a lot.
Students of WIT, how do you expose them to those kinds of things and help them build their knowledge and understanding?
Well, we definitely noticed that our students that come to WIT are lacking in financial literacy. This is an article that I'm going to be putting out soon, just the lack of financial literacy in young people or in the education system. And it's the number one thing. I mean, this literally happened last night. We got an application for our financial course that we offer at WIT from a 44-year-old last night that said, would you be open to making an exception? Because this is so important that I understand this and I want to teach other people how to do it. Do you have a course that teaches adults that they can then go teach young people? And I got this application and it's legit. And I did some Googling on him. He's legit, but basically just saying people need this and they can't find it. So they come in without that. Okay. And so there's layers to what you're going to learn at WIT, depending on your business and depending on your exposure to entrepreneurship before we meet you. But what we do often get is the young person that comes in and says, when we say, okay, now it's time to talk about the budget for your business, like, what are your expenses? Oh, I don't have any. And we say, what do you mean I don't have any? Well, I already have the yarn, or I already have the cooking supplies. And I said, but your mom and dad bought that. How much does that cost? and as they say, because they'll come to you and it will sound like this, we're going to charge $1 a cookie. I'm like, no, you're not. Yeah, because I don't have any expenses. Yes, you do. So it's just teaching that. And that's actually how young people want to learn about math and apply math to their life, is real world application. So I would say that's like how basic we teach it, starting with your budget. And then if you take this class that's taught by a gentleman who has sold a couple businesses and he also runs a nonprofit, he comes in and teaches a financial class, you're going to get a lot more in depth if that's if you just want to be that to be your focus. And that goes into investing, basic finance. So we have a range, but that's how it ties into for the business piece.
Yeah. While you were talking, I was remembering an example. I have 4 boys and all of them have had their own businesses. and have been entrepreneurial. They kind of grew up thinking that way. But one of the remarkable experiences that I remember, and I'm going to say what I think we should have done differently so that the audience might consider this because of what you just said. On July 4th, there was my in-laws lived in Highlands, North Carolina, on the 9th tee of a golf course. So it's perfectly situated before the halfway house on a hot day in the summer to sell lemonade. So they've all four sat out there, and every single group that came through bought lemonade for every one of the kids. It was very successful, 100% market penetration into their market. But and they only charged 50 cents, which doesn't sound like much today. Back then, it was a bit more. This is probably the early 90s, maybe late 80s. No, definitely was early 90s. But what they should have done, which I wish I would have done, was put 50 cents on their price and put a strike through and say $1.50 because grandma has to be paid back.
Yeah. Yeah. We like to teach them like how to do like the two, like, you know, what would it cost to get two of them? It's a little bit, you know, like price it so that people will automatically
50
buy
cents a
two.
Piece, 90 cents for two, that kind of thing.
And then they give you the change because then you get the tip, you know, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
and that's great. Yeah. Because people have to learn, the young people need to learn that things cost money. Your Wi-Fi costs money, your electricity costs money, your computer that you're using costs money. So yeah, it's fun. It's really cute actually to hear some people, like even like 16-year-olds like that. I was already working at 16, but 16-year-olds that have never held a job and never had to pay for anything except for using a debit card that's their parents, and then just having no sense of what things cost.
Yeah. Well, my desire in this episode was to expose people to the idea that there is an opportunity out there. You're providing it at, I got to look it up again, doingwit.org.
Yes.
To help kids take their education and apply it to a real world context, even if it is in a small way, but helps them get to thinking about how they can create a livelihood, do good, do for others, and make a living at the same time. It is wonderful to see this. And I hope that our audience will come visit the site, and I hope they'll tell you that this is why they ended up there.
I hope so. And we offer a really fun summer camp. It's virtual. It's 5 days, and it culminates in the chance to win $1,000. We only do this during the summer, not during the school year. And we got 3 different camp sessions. And I'm telling you, it's a lot of fun. You're going to be so impressed with what your child does. They are not going to want to do anything else but work on their business in those 5 days. And you're going to be shocked, but you have to act like you're not shocked. But this is what happens every single summer. 5 days, and then a pitch competition and a chance at $1,000.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for telling us about WIT.
Thank you. And I hope to see some people there at Camp WIT.
Yeah. And folks, thank you for joining us on another episode of Veritas Vox, the voice of classical Christian education. We hope to see you next time.